These bosses are part of the Dangerous Depth quest, which is a continuation to the Warzones 1 to 3 from the Bigfoot's Burden quest. For that reason, they are more known as the Warzones 4, 5, and 6. Each of these areas has a boss on it, and to access the area itself, you must exchange 10 or 15 points. 15 if you haven't completed the Warzones 1 to 3 once, and 10 if you have done those already. And you get these points by either completing tasks for the respective NPC of the Warzone or by delivering suspicious devices in exchange. Once you have enough points, you are able to enter a sub-area with lava, where you must destroy a fragile lava tunnel by clicking on it, and then you will gain access to the respective Warzone for 8 hours. The timer will start the moment you step inside the Warzones, and after the 8 hours, you won't be kicked out if you are inside the area. But once you leave, you won't be able to enter again until you use the points once again. And for the bosses, each of them has a cooldown of 4 hours, which means you can do it at least twice within your access timer, and technically 3 times if you stay inside the zone for the 3rd kill, although that requires others to do the same. And the last thing you will need to do the bosses is 30 heavy crystal fragments. You get some as loot from the bosses, and you can also get more by using the crystals across each Warzone. Once 30 crystals have been used on the rocks, it will open the teleport to the boss. And with that said, let's break down the bosses, by starting with the common things. For all of them, fire protection is a must-have, and some physical as well. For the most part, it's either SDs or avalanches. Spells are rarely used because positioning matters more and their damage often comes in close range. Upon defeating a boss and leaving through the teleport, you're taken into a room with a lava pump. Clicking those into 3 different rooms is what unlocks the powerful capacity imbuement used on backpacks. And lastly, in terms of loot, they all share some common drops, but each of them have their respective rares unique to them. Such common drops include Gnome Sword and Shield, Candlestone, which is used for taming them all, and the rare drops will be the outfit items, Gnome Armor, Helmet, and Legs. With that said, let's start with Warzone 4, the Baron from below. This boss tends to be the most common because the tasks for the Warzone 4 are so easy and repeatable that most people tend to have free access to this boss. However, it can also be the hardest boss to do and tends to require the most amount of people. I personally recommend around 8 people of level 450 range for this boss, EK ideally 500 plus. Upon entering the room, the shooters should take the northeast corner of the room, or southwest by the wall. The boss will be kept near the middle at all times, because it has different phases that will move him there anyways. The first one is that he summons an organic matter. These must be targeted with SDs and single target attacks. Neither the boss or the organic matter will move from their spot. Failing to kill it will heal the boss back to full, but with enough players, it's easy to do enough damage. And during this phase, the boss doesn't take damage, so even more of a reason to focus everything on the organic matter. Once it dies, then it splits into 4 aggressive matters. These often retarget on shooters, which is why the positioning matters, and the EK should be resting them as they spawn. Boss will take a reduced damage while they are alive, but still take a bit, so when they are alive, the attack should be on AoE, ideally with avalanche runes to clear the summons and still do a bit of damage on the boss. Once they die, then back to single target on the boss. His damage phase is based on time and it lasts for around 16 seconds. So more people helps with killing faster, and it helps with clearing the organic matter and summons, which in return makes the attack phases come faster. Most of the danger in this fight is on the EKs, especially if there is only one, as the damage from the aggressive matters stacks up quick, and with the other lavas and boss it can headshot EKs. For the shooters, the only risk is when the boss is close enough to hit them with AoEs, especially when it changes phases and often loses aggro on the EK, or when monsters ignore the EK and go for the shooters. But also, on the room there are 4 lava holes that when they light up, it will throw a fire attack near them with a range of an AoE that does around 1k fire damage. That aside, that's pretty much all there is to this boss. And as for the rare drops, this one can drop the Gnome Armor, the plan for a makeshift armor, which is the base makeshift warrior outfit, and the mallet head used for the opening the access to Morgagla. Moving on to Warzone 5 and the Count of the Core, the easiest out of the 3 and the most repeated and farmed boss out of these, because this one requires the least amount of people and it drops the Gnome Helmet, which is fairly easy to sell compared to the other items. My level recommendation for this one is of 5 level 400s. The mechanics for this boss is quite simple. Fire damage heals the boss, and in the room there are things that do fire, starting by the pipes to the north and south. When they light up, they will throw a fire beam in front of them after 4 seconds. That does around 1.5k 5k fire damage on players and heals the boss for over 6k. Additionally, when the boss receives damage, he summons slimes, and when these die, they explode and do fire damage in AoE, which also heals the boss for over 6k and does over 1k to players. So the strategy is to run the boss across the room. If there is only one EK, when the slimes are low HP, then run to the opposite side of the room and then the shooters finish up the slimes on the way. Or if there is another EK, then he resets the slimes and keeps them away from the boss. In this case, I will alternate the EK tanking the boss when it hits half HP, so they both get participation. You might find old videos in YouTube where people will surround the boss and just attack it. That was possible back then because the slimes will only spawn into 2 squares near him, but now he summons them one further as well. And even though you can still do it this way, by ignoring the slimes and just taking the extra damage, is not recommended and it's just harder that way. The easier strategy is to move back and forth, while making sure to communicate which line of pipes will blow up next, so that the EK can avoid getting the boss heal, but also people can move away from it to avoid damage. That's all there is for this boss. As for the rare drops, he can drop the Gnome Helmet, Thingapod, which is the second add-on of the makeshift outfit, and Mallet Handle, which is the most common piece for summoning Morgalla. Lastly, moving on to Warzone 6 and the Duke of the Depths. This boss does the highest amount of damage on the EK, making it the hardest for knights, but it can be easy on the shooters, as the mechanics is even simpler than the last one. First, the boss should be trapped near the teleport, but that adds damage on the EK since he tanks the beam and waves in this position. Once he's trapped, then attack the boss and watch out for the 2 phases. On his normal version, he's attackable and is called the Duke, but on his second phase, he turns into a fire-empowered Duke. During this phase, he doesn't take damage and instead does more damage, making it more dangerous on the EK. And in order to turn him back to normal, you must kill the 5 lava holes called Fury Hearts that spawn in the middle of the room. Spells and avalanches are the best for this, and failing to kill them on time turns them into fiery bloods. These act like monsters and will follow shooters around and do quite a bit of damage. So the main focus of the fight should be getting rid of the fiery hearts as they spawn, and then attack the boss after. Keep in mind that walking near the middle puts you in front of the waves from the boss, so try to avoid that by moving around the edges. For this boss, I recommend at least 6 people of low 450s, and depending on the level of the EK, I will wear my rings when the boss is unpowered, and since the phase is time dependent, the more people you have, the faster it will die, as the speed of killing the Fury Hearts will give you more or less time to attack the boss after. And that's all there is for this boss. The rare drops for this one include the Gnome Legs, crude wood planks for the first add-on of the makeshift outfit, and the Mallet Pommel, which is the most expensive piece used for summoning Morgalla. If you found the video helpful, consider subscribing for more content like this, and if you want to support the channel further, consider donating Tibia coins to Goody Donation. Thank you for watching, and a special thanks to Tuna Hero, Night Star, and Torta Slasher.